I can hear myself from here. I hope you can hear me from there. Welcome to those that are watching online to this first press conference of the 62nd General Conference session of Seventh-day Adventist. We have begun. Now today there were a few business items that were established. We gave the official opening. I'll go through them quickly here, and then there will be two sets of questions for us this afternoon. We have some very special guests from a committee we call Session Management. The first will be questions about the general organization of session and what it takes to pull an event like this together. The other will be questions about technology, in particular the DSM Digital Strategy for Mission offering that will take place this coming Sabbath. You may have questions about that, and also the technology involved in GC Session, from websites to apps and other details. I will introduce our guests later on. So we begin with the GC Session being declared open. It was declared open by the chair this afternoon after all of the items that needed to be met were in fact met, including a quorum of delegates, including a time that it was set up properly in announcements beforehand to make sure that everybody was aware and were able to send delegates. People sent them, they arrived, and we had a minimum quorum. So today we started officially opening the General Conference session. Then we had some items that needed to be voted. The standing committees were voted. The program was voted. The agenda was voted. And the nominating committee was voted. We spent quite a bit of time as delegates deliberating whether to add items to the agenda or not. Delegates moved the inclusion of an amendment related to the 2015 vote, and then that was turned down. The delegates decided not to, can you take this call, please, Alyssa? Not to accept that amendment to the agenda, so that would not be discussed. There was also another amendment that was brought to the floor to add a report of the Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department that was also turned down. And so the agenda in the end was voted as previously organized, as originally brought to the floor. After that, the nominating committee was voted, all 277 names, and they start their work tomorrow morning after worship. So just as planned, everything happened today in the way that we anticipated. In a few moments, if you have some questions about that process, feel free to ask those questions. But I would like to move into inviting some of our guests here today who will take your questions about general organization of GC Session. First of all, the chair of our session management committee, not quite the chair, but the leader of session management, George Iguaki. He's an associate treasurer of the General Conference. George, would you mind joining us here, please? And alongside him, Sabrina De Souza. She is also an associate treasurer, deeply involved with session. And Sylvia Sicolo, the session manager, who has sorted out over, I don't know, Sylvia, 30,000 details over the last few years, all to do with session management. Please join me here. George, Sabrina, Sylvia, join me over here. Thank you. Now, these journalists, they appear very fierce. They're not. They're great people, and they'll ask you some good questions about what it takes to put session together. I will start with some questions for them, and then feel free to add in a few moments. If you have a question you'd like to ask them, just join the mic over here. George, how many sessions have you worked on organizing?
4.
4 sessions. Let's turn
4 sessions.
the mic on. Oh, good. 4 sessions, George. And does it get easier?
Well, in terms of subcommittees that we work with, yes. but each city has its uniqueness. So I would say it's not too bad.
All right.
not
All
too
right.
bad.
Good. Sabrina, this is your first session that you are helping to organize. What has it been like?
Well, it's been quite wonderful. I've spent many sessions as a delegate, and so to see how it works behind the scenes has been phenomenal. It's a great opportunity to see our church in action. And so there are so many big things to plan, from food to hotels to audiovisual to the app. So just so many details, and it's a great pleasure to work under the leadership of Georgia Guaki and to work beside our meeting planner, Sylvia Sacalo.
So, Sylvia, you have hardly slept, it seems, but you're doing very well. Tell me about the last week in particular before we started. You moved to St. Louis last week, and but you've been here many times before in different site visits. You got to know the city quite well, especially because it was also here in 2022. What has your experience been?
So we have probably done since, as you said, 2022, we were here with the 61st General Conference session. And since then, I think we have probably done 17 site visits here.
Wow.
And you may think that, yes, you were just here and you come back. But this GC session is not the same as in 2022. So there is a reason why we come back, and we come back with different groups because we have communication that would like to see certain area. We have AV that would like to see certain areas. We have food and etc. So yes, we moved here to St. Louis, our second home, last Tuesday. We've been here since then, trying to go over many of the details, and our AV team arrived on Thursday of last week. So we started preparing for this big event since then.
Fantastic. Well, if you have any questions about today's agenda, what was discussed, or about session management altogether, please feel free to ask those questions. If there are no questions, I will keep talking to them because I have some myself. Please just come to the mic so that people at home can hear you. Identify yourself and your organization, please.
Andy Roman with Advent Messenger. There was talks about maybe some delegates from certain countries not being able to attend because of maybe our administration put restrictions and travel bans on certain countries. Did that affect anything in our session this year, or was that just a lot of noise in the news?
And when you say administration, you mean the country administration?
Our U.S. administration, yes.
Yeah, United States administration. Anyone would like to take that?
Yeah, there's no question about that we have had a very rough year, especially where we have to get delegates from the continent of Africa and SUD, that is Asia. It has been very, very rough. I think the last count we had was about 2,400 out of about 2,800 delegates, although some may come. But it's very unusual that there's no question that the influence of the pronouncement that comes from the state government has caused some uneasiness on the part of certain parts of the continent of Africa and Asia. Yes, it does.
Anyone else? Look at that. They're all shy now. Not quite. Okay, so I'll take a couple more questions I will ask. Or Heidi, go ahead. You're first.
Hi, I'm Heidi Baumgartner from the Northwest Gleaner magazine. And I believe I heard today that when they were seating the delegates, there was 1/3 of the delegate number that was seated. Are more delegates expected? Is this all that we're expecting to come here? 1/3 of the delegates is kind of a small number in my mind, but maybe I misunderstood.
No, the quorum is 1/3 of the delegates.
A quorum is a third.
Yes,
Okay, good to know.
we are well above the quorum.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. We've had, I think in the top count, we've had just over 2,000 voting this afternoon, which is fairly typical. Okay, so let's talk about food, Sylvia. There's lots of people eating here. How do you go about contracting a company that will feed this number of people with delicious vegetarian food?
Well, I think most convention centers, they have an exclusive caterer. And so we work with this caterer to, first of all, to educate them a little bit the way we eat. It is a little bit different than any other event that probably happens here in St. Louis. So we go through a menu, and this is a menu that was created after 2010, if I remember correctly, George. It was a survey that was sent to delegates that attended that GC session, and based on that survey, the menus were created. And of course, we tweak it here and there. And then we do tastings. Every time we come to a site visit, we taste one of the menus. And yes, some may say, well, that it's too salty or it doesn't have any salt, but it's not the same to cook for 25 people that you invite sometimes for lunch at your house than cooking for over 5,000.
Yeah. George, let's talk about the exhibit hall. A great point of people wanting to come and meet different ministries from around the world. They come to the exhibit hall. In the last session, we did not have an exhibit hall, and people cried out for it in this session. Tell us about that journey of bringing it back in full swing and people's need for it as you perceived it.
Okay. Remember, we have COVID-19. Because of that, there was social distancing. Under that umbrella, those who did like exhibition decided that no, it's not necessary. Some laymen and some individuals kicked against it. Mm-hmm. So if we took an action in executive committee that there be no more exhibitions during the GC session. Because of the push by some laymen, they were able to bring the item back on the agenda, and it was then approved. You see, the exhibition is it's a point of meeting of people from different racial background, of missionaries, those who were out there serving the world church in foreign countries, seeing some of those students they have trained or worked with, seeing them face to face and their family is something very unique. And it's a good feeling when you see some of the people you have trained coming out and taking responsible positions in the church. So I personally, after working on 4 sessions, that's about 20 years, that's an area I think should not be touched. It's something we should encourage.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you, George. Sabrina, this is a digital first session, and you had a lot to do with the application that we now have being used by everyone. I'll give you a compliment. My wife was playing around with it. She looked at me and said, "This is actually really good," which is a good thing, very good thing. So what was the process of navigating through the different needs so that people who were here could have access to the information as fast as possible in the easiest way possible?
So, Sam, that's so nice of you to say. I also want to shout out right back to the communications team who was heavily involved in helping us develop the app. And we are so happy about it. It had wide input from across the General Conference. One of the things, I mean, we can talk about how we procured it and how that process worked, but one of the great things is we were able to release it about a month early and then receive feedback from almost everyone in the world had a comment from across multiple continents. But the great thing was it improved the app for us. So now we have everything on there. Of course, one of my favorite features is that we have the entire schedule on there, and you can pick your favorites, and it'll send you notifications about your favorites. And so you can set up your schedule for the whole session, and then you can have it send you notifications. Also, there's, always, we talked about food, so all of the menus are on there. And so Sylvia talks about food, but what's exciting about it is to see how the ticket sales went up very high. We were surprised. We had to order more meals once we had placed it on the app. The ticket sales almost went up about 5 times, so we were excited about that. But just seeing people utilizing the app, it's also a great place to get your daily bulletins from the Adventist Review or get your news articles from A&N. It's also the place where the election results will show up almost in real time, as quickly as you and your team can get them to us. And so we're really excited about what's happening in the app, but what's one of the greatest things about the app is we get to use it again. So it's our new Adventist Events app. It'll be used for multiple sessions, multiple events. Hopefully one day it's something we can even share with our divisions and unions, and we can begin to use it across the church and continue to develop it. So we're calling it like 1.3 now, but hopefully by next GC session we'll be at 5.0.
Yeah, improving constantly.
Yeah.
Well, not seeing any further questions for our GC session management, I would like to thank you so much for joining us. A round of applause to this great team, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. In the last moment, please, go ahead.
So this morning when you did the orientation, you explained...
Identify yourself and your
sorry,
organization,
I'm Hayden
please.
Kobza with Spectrum Magazine. And this morning when you did the orientation, you explained some of the miscommunication and problems with security. I spoke with the officers who asked their supervisors that it was a GC session management decision about the doors being locked. And when we got into there at 1 p.m., several hours later, the CCTV and audio wasn't working. And during the election, there was problems with electronic voting, and it went to paper votes. So my question is, what are things that you guys can improve with all the management that's happening at the GC?
I'll start with the last question that you asked. There was, as far as I could tell, no problem with the voting. The chairman just decided, as his prerogative, to move to a paper ballot to move things faster, or rather just a voting cards, not paper ballots, voting cards to move the process faster. There was no issue with it. The issue that was alluded to is that delegates needed to scan the QR code every time, and then they changed that so that you could just log in to the same screen. Now back to the previous questions on the security door that you asked. Would any of you like to comment on that? I think you're alluding to the external media door was closed this morning and was opened at 1 p.m. I will address the other issues about the sound at the top. I think it's been solved. If not, it will be solved very soon. And the internet, was it the internet you mentioned?
No, it was the audio and the CCTV that I mentioned.
The audio,
Yeah.
and the footage from the floor being on the
Yes, sir.
screens.
Yes.
Has it been resolved so far, do you know?
Not that I have known.
Okay,
yet.
if not, it will be resolved very soon. Would any of you like to comment on the doors in the morning? No? Okay, so
I think generally, when you start an event, the first day is very critical because we don't know what works, what does not work. I must tell you, my team is really working very hard, I must tell you. From delegates missing their flight and their rooms not available, and we have to cut out some hotels and see they are occupied. So, for example, I've covered more than 21,000 steps today. 21,000 steps. Day before yesterday, it was about 19. Okay? So be patient with us. We may not all be perfect, but once we know the problem, we will do our best. This morning again, let me tell you, you see this security we have deployed? Even myself, that I have these 2 cards, escort privileges, there are some areas they didn't allow me to go through. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they are learning. The first day is always rough. After that, when they get to know the type of people we are, then they will understand how the system works. So that's how we say. I'm glad that you say at 1 o'clock. You know, you talked to me some time ago, probably early this afternoon, that 1 o'clock, when you were told it was going to be opened, in fact, it was opened. Okay? So just trust us. We are doing our own best. But when we fall short, we are ready to apologize. And that's part of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any further questions? No? Again, thank you very much. I would like to swap the guests now. I'd like to call Richard to come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And now I'd like to introduce to you Pastor Richard Stevenson, who is the Chief Technology Officer for the General Conference and an Associate Treasurer. Richard, welcome to this first press conference.
Thank you so much, Pastor Sam. Delighted to be here. Oh, and that's how you turn on the mic.
And that's how it's done.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, as a digital first session, you have overlooked all of the different ways we communicate and reach out and set up that structure. Not so much on the AV side, they have a whole team doing that. But I would like you to talk a little bit about the new technology that we are testing, that Hope Channel developed for translating, not just in the 6 languages, but many more languages. If you could let us know about that.
Yeah, so this is something that we're really excited about. We recently launched last year a initiative that we call the World Church Platforms, and that is part of Adventist.cloud, which is kind of the parent URL. And one of those platforms is Jetstream. We acquired the intellectual property of Jetstream from Hope Channel, and it's a partnership between the General Conference and Hope Channel to be able to make these resources available to the world field for use in local churches, in conferences, unions, etc. Any of our administrative offices, any of our church entities. So Jetstream is a media management portal, and one of the things that we're launching here at Session, and we're actually using it at Session, is the live translation into, I believe, 37 languages, and voice dubbing and transcription. So that's fairly cutting edge, and we're excited to be able to launch this at Session. And what we're most excited about is for our remote viewers to be able to engage with Session in a way that they've never done before, because they can now interact, listen, engage with Session in potentially a native language outside of the official ones which we have traditionally supported at the General Conference. So we're thrilled to be able to make this available. We're thrilled to use it here. We had a lot of people who were joining that live session today, and it went well. It actually went really well, for which we praise the Lord. And we're just absolutely thrilled that we can extend Session to people all across the world in hopefully a native language.
Fantastic. It's quite magic. You select your language, and you can either read it in that language or listen to an audio in that language.
And the audio is close to the speaker's voice. Now, this is something that we're getting better and better at, but the audio is not the generic audio that we so often hear, that as soon as you hear it, you know it's AI generated. This is much more of a tonal voice that is approximating the speaker's voice. So if you haven't checked it out, we would love for you to do that. We would love to hear your feedback and your comments. And we're excited because we're making this tool available for all of our church entities. So when they have evangelistic series, when they have crusades, When they have business meetings, they can do the live translation right there on the spot to be able to better reach those that are tuning in.
Excellent. Now let's transition to the application. Sabrina mentioned that this is not just a GC Session app, it's an events app that can be used for other events from different entities around the world. They need an event app, they can use the same one we're using at GC Session for themselves. What's the structure there? What's the architecture and the idea there, please, Richard?
Yeah, so we are using a industry standard language called Flutter. You're probably familiar with it if you're in that space. It allows you to develop once and then deploy to the common mobile environments, so in this case, Apple and Android. We're doing this through a partnership with the South American Division and the Institute of Adventist Technology, IATech. And so they have been our principal developers for it. And we're very excited because, just as you mentioned, it's not one of those use at one time apps, but we have plans to use it for our annual council, which is our yearly meeting coming up in the fall, and spring meetings thereafter. And then for any of our meetings, the Digital Strategy for Mission Convention for GAIN, and for any of our apps. And as Sabrina alluded to, anything that we develop at the GC, we want to make available to the world field for them to use. So that's on the horizon for us to get the app into a true multi-tenant environment where any of our divisions can use it in an isolated environment that has no impact over our ongoing programming, but they take advantage of all of the development and the resources which we have invested into it. So develop it once and the world church benefits.
Thank you. Last theme before we open for questions, if there are any. This Sabbath will be a special offering, and the following Sabbath, on digital strategy for mission. This is exciting because it's the first time that we're focusing on digital so much in the world church. Tell us about the development of that and what that means.
So digital strategy for mission is the continuation of the digital evangelism efforts that have been ongoing at the General Conference. And so we're very excited to be able to have this highlighted to the world church, and not just a shot in the pan, a one-time deal, but this is maybe some insider baseball, but the offerings, 100% of the offering is being returned to the division, so that's an important point. But that offering is contingent on them creating plans that are sustainable into the future. So we're not looking for a one-time digital evangelism event, online outreach event. We're not looking for a box to check. We're looking for a continuation of online outreach, engaging in digital evangelism to reach people where they're at. And we understand today people are increasingly on these devices. I think I saw a number recently, 5 billion active mobile devices in the world. And this is not something that is unique to any certain part of the world. Mobile devices are ubiquitous. They're all over the world. And we need to reach people through the avenues where they're already engaging. And if we put content on these devices, we believe this is a way that we can introduce them to Jesus, engage with them, connect them to a local church family, and then see that relationship grow. So the offering is designed, I know this is a really rambling answer, Pastor Sam, but the offering is designed to motivate our divisions and their unions and conferences to directly engage in digital evangelism, and for it not to be a one-time deal, but for this to be a sustainable ministry effort.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Richard? In any of the topics that we discussed? If there are none, we will end our press conference today. I see a question.
Hi, Hi, Sam Gervin with Spectrum. I have a question not for him, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I've spoken with some delegates after today's discussion in the business session, and the discussion about the agenda went long, and there were delegates that spoke. They only got 2 minutes to speak, whereas Elder Wilson got up there, and he spoke for a considerably longer amount of time. And the delegates that I spoke with, they felt that this was kind of unfair to them, as they are the body, that is the ecclesiastical top body in the church. They felt that that was an unfair practice. So do you think that it is a fair practice for church leaders who are elected to get an unfettered amount of time like that, whereas delegates only get 2 minutes to speak?
It's the prerogative of the chair to decide who will answer on behalf of the church or administration in relationship to that issue, and allow the time allocated, or the time that they allocate to it. So that would be the prerogative of the chair to allow that to happen. And it's practiced for all sessions, as far as I can remember, where that is the case. If there is a question on the floor, which there was, about an immunization statement in 2015, it's very appropriate for the chair to allow the president of the General Conference, who presided over that very meeting, to address the delegates on why that happened, which he did today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to follow up, Andy Roman, Advent Messenger. I want to follow up on the point that he made. Yeah, we got a 12-minute sermonette, and the chair said, we don't want people to hijack or preach sermons. So we're going to have to, somebody has to make a motion that the rules have to apply to everyone, because 3 years ago when we were here, Ted Wilson gave another sermonette. And he's in a position of trust, he's in a position of authority, and he has a lot of influence. And it's hard to articulate something in 2 minutes. I mean, it's difficult. And I'm just wondering, how can we move away from people who have real concerns about something that shut down the world, shut down our churches, shut down evangelism, affected a lot of people, hurt a lot of people, financially? How can we not just call that all just a conspiracy theory, and maybe have a discussion where we want to avoid agendas, we want to avoid going off into real conspiracy theories, but how can we have a conversation? Because I don't know if this is going to go away. So how can we avoid sermonettes, and how can we have a conversation where we can move forward in unity?
Thank you. There were two parts of your question. The first related to the democratic process. What we saw today was over 2,000 delegates wrestling with a topic, whether we want to discuss that topic or not as a body. And there were, the chair gave ample opportunity for people to make motions, to write down those motions, and have the body decide whether they wanted to discuss those motions or not. And the body decided they did not want to discuss those motions, which is the prerogative of the body. That was the first question. So how do we discuss it? We allow the body to decide whether we want to discuss that or not. And the body very clearly today decided those items, those two motions, we do not want it added to the agenda. The first question that you asked is the same answer that I gave before. It is the prerogative of the chair to allow the administration or those that were involved in the issue at hand to clarify to the body what happened and why. And that is, he exercised that prerogative, and the body was able to hear the understanding of the chair of ADCOM, in this case, who presided over ADCOM, for the reasons why the statement was voted in the way that it was voted, which directly addressed the motion at hand. Not seeing any further questions, we are finishing with our first press conference. Thank you for coming, for asking those questions. Tomorrow we will be here again at 4:30. Thank you for those that were listening from home or wherever it is that you are on your device. In a few moments we'll come back. I think at 6:30 or 7, that will be the beginning of the concert, and the evening program where we will listen to and watch the President's Report. The President's Report is not what the President has been doing for the last 3 years. Instead, is what the church has accomplished in different parts of the world, highlighted in a very special report, mostly a video. So you would want to watch that, come back to the same channel to watch it. There are also other languages you can listen to it. Richard, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming. We will see you tomorrow.